the Luo language. So, as we all know, the Luo people are all over within East Africa, living in 6 different countries. Now, often I get this question a lot of, if they are all Luo, how come they don't speak the same language? Do all the Luo people speak the same language? Well, the answer is yes. Now, we do have a lot of words that are different, but we also still have a lot of words that are the same. When you think of when you think of the Luo language, okay, take it like the American English versus the British English, or the English in England, the English, all right? Now, when you look at how the Americans spell certain words, like for example, color, the Americans spell the word color as C-O-L-O-R, color. Now, how the English or how the British actually spell the word color, it's spelled as C-O-L-O-U-R, C-O-L-O-U-R. So when you look at these two, okay, when you look at these two, the British spelling have U, whereas the American doesn't have U. They still have the same meaning, and they still have the same pronunciation. Now, the difference between the two is the spelling itself. It's the spelling. Now, let me tell you something. This is also the same as the Luo language itself. How the Luo people in South Sudan speak, or how the Ugandan Luo speak, or how the Tanzanians speak. We have different ways of how we spell certain things, or we may pronounce things differently, but we can actually understand what the other party is saying. Now, I'm going to give you some examples from some Luo groups within East Africa. Now, we are all aware, or at least some of you may know, that there are Acholi people in Uganda. So there's Acholi of Uganda, and then there's also Acholi of South Sudan. Now, a lot of people may think that there's no differences between Acholi of Uganda and Acholi of Sudan, but our biggest difference is actually in our pronunciation, how we pronounce things. And the Ugandan accent is a bit more polite, and it's more soft when they speak, whereas the South Sudanese actually is more direct, it's more sharp. Okay, and also there are some phrases that an Acholi of Uganda would not use, but it would be used in South Sudan. With that being said, the Acholi of Uganda and Acholi of South Sudan, we still understand each other completely. This is Acholi of Uganda versus Acholi of South Sudan. So, in South Sudan, if we want to say, I don't want something, we would say Amiroko. Amiroko. Now, the key word that I want you to take from this is ko. So, the ko, we spell it as K-O-O, ko, Amiroko. Whereas an Acholi of Uganda would say ko, that's K-U, ko, Amiroko, Atimoko, and ko. So they use the ko, whereas an Acholi of South Sudan would use ko. Now, another example that I would like to give would be the Acholi language versus the Kenyan Luo. So in the Kenyan Luo, the word for the heart is chunya, chunya. So it's spelled as C-H-U-N-Y-A, chunya. Now, in actually the word for the heart, like my heart, is chunya, chunya. So now when you look at these two words, they are spelled differently, but they have the same pronunciation. And I'm telling you, both actually of Uganda and South Sudan and the Luo in Tanzania and Kenya would know exactly that these two words mean heart. They have different spelling, but they have the same pronunciation. Now, I'm going to give you the third example. A third example for the word one. So all the Luo people, the word for one, this is applicable to all Luo. The word for one is achiel. Now, in Acholi, the word achiel is spelled as A-C-E-L, achiel. A-C-E-L, achiel. Now, when you go to the Anywa language, the Anywa language this is for Luo of Ethiopia, and they're also found in South Sudan. The word achiel is spelled as A-C-I-E-L, A-C-I-E-L. A-C-I-E-L. Achiel. Third example, the Kenyan and the Tanzanian Luo. The Kenyan and the Tanzanian Luo would spell the word Achiel as A-C-H-I-E-L. That's A-C-H-I-E-L. Now, when you look at all the three ways of saying Achiel, their pronunciation are all the same, but they just have different spelling. There's no one Luo person that when you tell them Achiel, they don't know what it is. And then my final example is gonna be for the word for poo or feces. Now, the Acholi people would say chiet to say poo or feces, chiet. Whereas the Kenyan and the Tanzanian Luo would say chieth, chieth. You see that? Chiet, chieth, chiet, chiet. So those are some of the words that might be spelled or pronounced differently among the Luo, but we all know what they mean. So overall, I would like to conclude that the Luo language in itself, it's like the English versus the American English. They spell certain things differently. They might have a funny accent here and there when you compare the two, but they are still the English language. So that is all. Thank you very much for watching and have a lovely day, of course. Luo ye haba, luo ye haba.